Okay, senior two. This is our grammar lesson. Let's share the booklet. This is narrative tenses. Okay, narrative. Bring your aim high book next to the booklet so we can use them both. Booklet, aim high book page 17. So page 17, aim high book, narrative tenses. Here we have in the booklet the description and exercise of narrative tense. Okay, narrative, what's the meaning of narrative tenses? What does it mean? Narrative from narration. So narration when we tell a story. So when we tell a story, we use the word narrator, narration, and this is narrative is the adjective. So we talk about stories or things happened in the past. So we talk about past. So narrative tenses, all tenses related to the past. So we can talk about narrative tenses to be past simple, past continuous, past perfect continuous, use to, would, any tense related to expressing past. Okay, let's read together. Narrative tenses are verb tenses that are used to talk about the past. They are often found in stories and descriptions of past events, such as personal incidents. So when you talk about something happened to you, or you describe something happened in the past, or tell a story, we use them. Example, the following are examples of narrative tenses. Past simple, we left on a rainy day. Past continuous, it was pouring down even at midday. Past perfect, it had rained off and on for 10 days. It had rained off and on for 10 days. Past continuous, we had been waiting to escape for what seemed ages. So again, this is past perfect and past perfect continuous. Something took duration in the past. Okay, we had been waiting. So they waited for a long time to escape for what seemed ages. So they wanted to say that they stayed for a long time waiting. And of course, the event happened in the past and finished, but took duration in the past. So we used all types of past to express narrative tense. Narrative tense are the grammatical structure that we use when telling a story or talking about situations and activities which happened at a defined past time. So please be aware of the word defined, defined past time. So for this reason, we don't use present perfect to express a narration or narrative tenses. Why? Because present perfect doesn't care so much about time. It cares much more about the action itself. So we don't, narrative tenses doesn't include present perfect, despite that present perfect is tense talks about the past, something happened in the past and left an effect, but it doesn't include it in the tenses related to narration. When narrating past events, don't mix past and present tense. Avoid using the present perfect and present simple. This is what I mentioned, as this will confuse the reader or listener about when things really happen. So don't mix the present perfect and past simple. Don't mix during narration, especially during narration. Here are the most common narrative tenses and how they are used. The simple past tense is used to express completed action at a definite time in the past. The separate events which occur in the sequence in a narrative are expressed using this tense. I woke up at 8 a.m., had a shower, and ate some breakfast. I left for work at 9 a.m. So we call these are all of them successive actions, one after another. So we use past simple. Note that past simple is the most common tense after when in questions. So what's the most common tense is used after the question word when? It is past simple. To express past habits, of course, we know that we express present habits, habits related to present simple, as we used to know. But of course, we had habits in the past, and we can express habits in the past using past simple. The meaning is something used to happen in the past. It was a habit in the past, and it doesn't happen now. Note, used to plus verb is often used to express past habits and states that happened in the past but don't happen now. Used to cannot be used for actions which only occurred once. I used to work for Petrobras. I don't work for them now. So I used to work in this company before, but I don't now. I didn't used to like living in Alabama. I don't like it now. Where did you see? Where did you use? Where did you used to go for lunch? You don't go there now. So we ask in the past. Where did you use? So the question is in the past. Would plus adverb of frequency. Plus verb can be used to express past habits which don't happen now. So we use used to and would to express past habits which don't happen now. My grandfather would always read the newspaper at breakfast time. He doesn't do it now. My grandfather would always read. Here read in the past simple, and we use would plus my grandfather would all here this is would, so would plus infinitive would always read the newspaper. Or my father used to read, or my father read. So you can say one of the three. You can say my father used to read, my father would read, or my father read, or my grandfather read. The three of them means that this action doesn't happen now anymore. Using would instead of used to often gives an idea of nostalgia. However, if the adverb of frequency is stressed, it can give the idea that the habit was annoying. My dog would never do what I wanted it to do. So here, never, here they gave an adverb of frequency. What's the reason? To stress the annoyance. My dog would wouldn't do whatever I wanted it to do. If I say wouldn't do, it's okay. But here I'm not annoyed so much. But if I say would never do, this is the stress on the idea of annoyance. Note, would cannot be used for past states. I can't use would to express past states. I would live in Sao Paulo. So I can't say that. I can say I used to live. I used to live. But would live is wrong because live is a state, not an action. So I can't use would with state verbs. I can use it only with action verbs. Number two, the past continuous tense. As with all continuous tenses, the past continuous gives the idea of the activity and duration. The past continuous is used. So here we talk about idea of or activity and the duration. Something took time in the past was happening in the past. So it took duration. So underline or circle the word duration. It is the clue here. Something happened and took duration. The past continuous is used to describe the situation in which the events of the narrative occurred. B, this is example, when I woke up at 8 a.m., the sun was shining and the birds were singing. I had a shower, ate some breakfast, and left for work at 9 a.m. Here we describe like an image or like a picture. We use this for stories. The birds were shining, were singing, sun was shining. So I'm describing the situation and how was the picture. Okay, so I woke up, past simple. The sun was shining and the birds were singing, past continuous. I had a shower, ate some, again, successive actions, ate some breakfast and left for work. So here I mix it past simple and past continuous to describe the action in the past, who took duration in the past, and of course it finished. B, to express an activity in progress at a time in the past. So we talk about an activity not in progress now. No, it was in progress in the past. What were you doing when I phoned you? What were you doing when I phoned you? So here I'm asking, when I phoned, what were you doing? What were you doing for a long time before that time when I phoned you? You were doing something before I phoned and during the phone. So what were you doing? So a duration. Note the past continuous is the most common tense after while. in questions and statements. So when we use while, we use past continuous a lot or the most used. The past continuous also expresses the idea of an interrupted activity. So we use past continuous to express interruption. She was cooking dinner when the doorbell rang. So the long action, she was cooking. So what happened to interrupt her? The doorbell rang. She cooked dinner. She was cooking dinner and the doorbell rang. So she stopped the cooking and went to open the door. The long action was cooking. The short action rang. So this idea of the interruption was continuous again. An unfinished activity. I was reading the book you lent me. I read the book. I finished reading the book finishing the whole day or the whole book. I was reading the book you lent me. So this took a duration. A repeated activity. They were shooting at the enemy. They shoot, they fired the gun one time only. Okay, so they were shooting, they shoot and shoot and shoot. So they repeated shooting. But when I say they shoot the enemy, they did for once. So they were shooting many times. They shoot was simple only one time. A temporary situation. He was standing on the corner waiting for a bus. Stood on the corner, permanent situation. Was standing on the corner, that means this is a temporary situation, not a permanent. He was standing on the corner waiting for the bus. Of course, he doesn't wait for the bus all the day or all his time. He was doing that for a certain time in the past. Okay, so we don't say it stood in the corner. No, we say he was standing. Why? Because this is a temporary situation. We still with the usage of past continuous. Note the past continuous can also be used as future in the past. This will be explained later. So then we have a tense we call it future in the past. Later we will mention it. It's important. The past perfect simple tense. So we talk about past simple, past perfect for narration. The past perfect simple is used to show that an action or situation happened before the events in the narrative described in past tense. For example, when I woke up at 8 a.m., the sun was shining and the birds were singing. I had slept really well the night before. I had a shower, ate some breakfast, and left for work at 9 a.m. So here they mixed three tenses, narrative tenses together, past simple, past continuous, and present and past perfect. So past simple and past continuous, present perfect to describe something before, happened before. I had slept really well the night before. So now I talk about now, woke up and ate and left. So that happened short time ago. But before doing that, I had slept really well. So we use past perfect for order to talk about something happened before another action in the past. Note it is bad style to use too many verbs in the past perfect as soon as it's clear that the event happened before the time that the narrative is set. Use the simple past and past continuous. Let's see the example. When I woke up at 8 a.m., the sun was shining and the birds were singing. I had slept really well the night before. I dreamt about the time I spent living in Switzerland before I was a teenager. I had a shower, ate some breakfast, and left for work at 9 a.m. Note, if the subject of two verbs is the same, you don't have to repeat the had auxiliary. So if the subject is the same subject, so mention had only one time. Don't repeat it. When I arrived, he had finished his dinner and left the room. So in some cases, we say when I arrived, he had finished his dinner and had left the room. But here we don't need to repeat had here, had left. Why? Because we mentioned it here before. He had finished his dinner. So we don't say and he had left the room. So omit had, don't repeat it. This is about the repetition of had in one sentence with the same subject. Making a narrative is more interesting to read. It is generally seen as bad literary style to have too many verbs in the same tense. In English, it's always best to avoid repetition where possible. So This is clear and important, so avoid repetition as much as you can. If you can avoid repetition, please avoid it. Look again at the example used to illustrate the past simple tense. This simple tense could be improved for dramatic effect by using the past perfect simple. I woke up at 8 a.m. and left for work after I had a shower and eaten some breakfast. So here I want to say having a shower was the first action. Then I ate my breakfast. Conjunctions after, as soon as, before, by the time, once, till, when, until, and unless. These conjunctions are used with narrative tenses. We use them when we talk about something happened in the past or was happening in the past or explain something in the story or mention a picture or to describe a picture in the past. With these conjunctions of time, the past perfect shows that the first action must be completed before the second action begins. Otherwise, the past simple is used. So to use past perfect, we have two actions. The first action must be completed, and the second action started after it. After she finished, they left. She had finished, they left. She had to finish first. So first she had to finish. So in the sentence with past perfect and past simple, we have two actions. One of them completely finished and the other started. The past perfect continuous tense. The past perfect continuous is used for longer activities that were happening continuously up until a specified time in the past. So underline this, longer activities that were happening continuously. So here we have long actions or long activities, took time in the past, took duration in the past. Okay. He looked very tired. He had been working very hard over the past 3 weeks. As with the past continuous, the past perfect continuous can show the following. Unfinished activities, of course, past perfect continuous, unfinished activity in the past. He hadn't heard the telephone ring because he had been reading. So what happened here? Was doing something, so he didn't do another thing. So I didn't do that because I was doing that, both in the past, but past perfect and past perfect continuous. Repeated activity. I was tired. I had been cutting wood all day. Notice all. Notice the word all. So I was tired. Why? Because I had been cutting wood all day. So why were you tired? Because I don't say I cut wood yesterday or I was cutting. So I say I had been cutting. Present perfect, past perfect continuous to express something to duration in the past. With the past perfect simple, the focus is on the completed activity. He would read 3 reports. Present past perfect simple. Past perfect simple had. He had read 3 reports that morning. He had read 3 reports that morning. This is a completed activity. So he had finished reading them. He had cut a huge pile of wood. So he finished that. He completed the action. The future and the past. The future and the past is used to look into the future from a point of time in the past. So we talk about past, okay? We talk about future when we are in the past. We talk about future while we are or while we were in the past. However, this future event still occurred at a time before the present time. I woke up at 8 a.m. yesterday. So past simple. I was meeting my boss at 10 o'clock that morning. I was meeting. This is not present continuous. This is future. Okay. I was meeting. So I had an appointment with him. So it's a future in the past. Let's say I am meeting my boss today. So this present continuous form used to express future. Here is again future to express past continuous to express future. I woke up at 8 a.m. yesterday. I was meeting my boss at 10 o'clock that morning. Notice that. So I wouldn't be able to have lunch with Susan. I wasn't going to get home again until late that night. I wasn't going to get home again. I wasn't going to get home again. This is going to refer the future. So I wasn't going to get home. This is to refer future, but we were in the past. In the past, talking about the future. Depending on the situation, the following tenses are used in the future in the past. So what are the tenses are used in the future in the past? Past simple, continuous, would be doing, would have done, can cover the idea of uh, future in the past. Okay, next time we'll answer the questions together. Let's go to my book to answer some questions. Page 17. Page 17. Let's do the exercise. Page 17, the exploit. Okay, when you use the Zoom video, please open your books together with the computer or with the booklet. Okay, let's read complete the fable. Fable. What's fable? Fable is the story. All its characters are animals only. Remember that. Complete the fables with the correct form of the verbs in brackets. Sometimes two answers are possible. Justify your choices, then in pairs write a moral for the fable. Okay, let's see what are the possible answers can be here. Listen, one day a hare was running along a path when he came across a tortoise. So this is a hare was running, came across a tortoise, so was running long action, took duration in the past. What happened suddenly that interrupted him? He came across a tortoise. The hare had been following the same route every day, past perfect continuous, something used to happen in the past, and took duration and repeated action. This is repeated action in the past. So past perfect continuous. The hare had been following the same route every day and had never come across a tortoise. So this is a past perfect, again, all narrative tenses. The tortoise was walking slowly, and the hare began to laugh at her. So, what happened? She was walking, duration was walking, walking, walking. What happened? He began to laugh at her. Irritated by the hare, the tortoise challenged him to a race. Challenged was simple. The hare had never had any doubt that he was the fastest animal around, so he accepted the challenge. After the hare had been running for a while, he realized that he had left the tortoise far behind and sat down under a tree to relax for a while. It wasn't long before he had fallen asleep. Although the tortoise was not hurrying, she overtook the hare. When the hare woke up, he realized that the tortoise had beaten him to the finish line. The hare we can say, was going to remember this experience for the rest of his life. Okay, later we'll explain each lesson again, the usage of each lesson in a narrative story, and we'll answer the rest of the questions in page 17 and in the grammar builder.